Hey everybody, I'm the Drink Pro. Today I've got a 21-year-old and a cask strength version of the BenRiach. What's up everybody? Kyle the Drink Pro here with you yet again. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for liking, subscribing, sharing the video with your friends, joining me on the Patreon. Everything you guys do to support the channel, it is immensely helpful. It means the world to me. Thank you all so much. As you can see, we're still operating on this sort of experimental mic setup. I don't know how it's going to go. I just moved it. Who knows if that's going to affect anything for better or worse. If the videos sound like crap, I'll change it back to the old way. If they sound better, we'll keep doing it this way. This whole process is an experiment. It's a lot of fun to experiment, but it's still an experiment nonetheless. Now today, I'm kind of going into, again, a realm I'm not as familiar with. You guys know that I do a lot of bourbon videos and drink a lot of bourbon, generally. Well, today we're going back to Scotland for a fun little taste of Scotch. Before I get too far into it, I want to thank Joseph and Dave from Vine & Table. They've offered me these samples to review. They're not paying me to do this. They're not paying for a specific answer. I'm going to give my honest-to-God opinion about these pours. Don't you worry about that. My integrity on this channel is really important to me, and I try to make sure that I'm as transparent with you guys as possible. But Vine & Table has been helpful for me in the past, and if you watch my Instagram, you will have seen that they've been pretty helpful to me in the very recent past. So there's some more cool things coming out of Vine & Table. You guys should check them out if you can. Today we are reviewing another Speyside distillery, the BenRiach. Now, I've heard it said with a little bit more phlegm, the BenRiach, but that's just obnoxious, so I'm not going to do that every single time. Now, BenRiach is a northern Speyside distillery that was founded in the late 1800s. If you remember what I talked about in my last video, the Speyside whiskeys do tend to have a little bit of a peat note, but not nearly as much as the Campbelltown or the Islas. They're going to have a hint of peat and probably more of a floral or a fruity note, something in the sweeter realm, with still some peat underlying. That's a typical profile for the area, so that's what I'm expecting out of these pours. Now, Vine & Table has given me two different offerings from the BenRiach. Both are going to be available in their store, but with limited releases, so keep an eye out for them if you want them. The first one is a 21-year-old offering. Now, this comes in at 46% alcohol and doesn't have any color added. I do think this is a chill-filtered product, however, because with a proof point that low, if you do a non-chill filtration, you may still see some particulate, and it ends up cloudy and just is not very appealing, so people don't like that. But one of the cool things that these people are doing is they're aging these whiskeys 21 years in 4 different kinds of casks. They have virgin American oak, bourbon casks, PX sherry casks, and Bordeaux wine casks. Then they take the 21-year aged whiskey from each of those casks, blend them together, and create a new offering. That's a really cool process to create this 21-year-old whiskey. Now, the 21-year-old BenRiach is also kind of fun because it's a mixture of peated and unpeated whiskeys. So I expect a slight peat note, but maybe not as strong as something that was 100% peated whiskey. Even in the Speyside, we are expecting a lighter peat. This should be a extremely light peat. The other whiskey I have is the second version of the BenRiach Cask Strength Edition. Now, just like the 21-year, they take a couple of different casks where they've aged a whiskey for its entire life, and then they blend together to create a final product. With the 21-year, they've added in the PX Sherry and the Bordeaux, as well as the bourbon and the virgin oak. In the cask strength version, you have the virgin oak and the bourbon, but you only have the PX Sherry. You don't also have the Bordeaux. The wine is an addition in the 21-year. The other whiskey I've got for us today is the Batch 2 BenRiach Cask Strength. Now, this whiskey is at 60.6%. It's non-chill filtered, and much like the 21, it's aged in multiple different kinds of casks that have been blended together. Although instead of going with a PX sherry, this is just an Oloroso sherry, as well as the virgin oak and the ex-bourbon finish casks. Obviously, there's no color added, much like the original BenRiach I mentioned before, but they've also done non-chill filtration on the 60.6% alcohol version. Since it's going to be higher proof, they're not worried about any of that separation that can occur at lower proofs. The other fun thing to note is with the Batch 2 of the BenRiach Cask Strength, it's actually a blend of 3 different years of whiskeys, 2006, 2007, and 2008. So you're kind of picking and choosing the best of those years and creating a product that really makes sense in this presentation. You want something that's designed to be cask strength. Now, one thing that's worth noting here is I don't remember which pour is which. I foolishly did not write on these bottles what they are. Luckily, because I know they are both the BenRiach, one of them's cask strength, one's not, so I'll figure it out pretty quickly. But Future Kyle better start writing stuff on labels. That being said, let's go ahead and pour this out. Oh wow, after pouring that one, it's really fruity. Whoa, I can just smell the air is very fruity after that one poured. Oh, and that one's peatier too. Okay. All right, as I said before, I know that the 21 is going to be a combination of peated and unpeated whiskey, so I expect it to be a lighter peat, and I know it's 46%, which is much lower than the 60.6 of the batch 2. So pretty quickly on the nose, I'll be able to figure out which one is which. So this is very light and sweet. I get tropical fruit. It's almost like Hawaiian punch, like a fruity, tropical. Very sweet though. There's a little bit of spice behind it, and a little subtle. I don't know, almost an oaky spice, like a barrel tannin. I guess that would make sense given it to be 21 years. I'm pretty sure this one is the lower proof, older whiskey. God, that's beautiful, though. I love those fruit notes. Ooh, I'm also getting like an orange. The citrus fruits are really prominent. I'm definitely getting the fruit punch and the tropical notes, but also really predominant orange and citrus. Ooh, I'm starting to get a little bit of, what is that? Like a plum, maybe? Yeah, a little bit of plum, a little bit of, maybe a hint of a red grape. I love the nose on that, though. Ooh, now this one's a lot more complicated. Now this, I believe, is the cask strength, which would make total sense because it's a lot stronger on the nose. I'm getting more of the peat than I expected, I think. But I'm also getting this really nice Christmassy spice. It's like anise and cinnamon and clove. Definitely some brown sugar. A little bit of the orange. The orange is a consistent note I'm getting. I'm getting figs on this. I'm almost getting like a fig pudding. It's got this really rich, desserty fruit with lots of baking spices. It's so cool how different these pours can be, whereas this one's almost a tropical fruit. On this one, it's a lot deeper and richer. The pepper is starting to show up a little bit of white pepper. Ah, beautiful. Okay, let's go ahead and taste the 21. Oh wow. The only way you know it's a Scotch, instead of a sort of a light American whiskey, is the finish. Mid-palate into the finish, there's this really unmistakable, like sea spray kind of thing. And I've talked about that a little bit with the Campbelltown and some of the Islas, but I think because they talk about this being a very northern distillery in Speyside, they're trying to highlight the fact that it's on the sea. That may be playing a role here. Oh yeah, and go back to the nose now. It's become much more almost like an orange that's been floating in the ocean. That's amazingly light. Yeah, it's sweet, it's light, and then you get this kind of subtle. I think the peanut shell is really showing up almost in the finish of this, like mid-palate into the finish. There's this sort of shell quality. There's no breadiness on this at all, even though it's a malt whiskey. There's a sweetness, definitely, but the sweetness looks more like a fruity sweetness. It reminds me more, honestly, of a bourbon sweetness. Yeah, there's a little bit of peat on the finish there, but it's very subtle. And the peat is quickly replaced with that woodiness. It's a very complex pour. Oh, and the tropical fruit comes back on the finish. Ooh, this isn't a pour for everybody. I mean, I think if you're really looking for high proof, you're not going to really appreciate this as much. If you're not a big fruity whiskey person, which I happen to be, this might not be the pour for you, but it's got this beautiful mix of wonderful tropical fruits and then hints of the slight peatiness, the slight sea breeze notes, and then back into this woody quality. It really evolves a couple of different times, which you'd expect from something 21 years old. I almost get this very light sawdust quality too in the mid-palate, which might turn some people off, but that's a really common note for me in scotches. They have this dusty wood, whereas a lot of the American whiskeys, they don't have the wood that's as dusty. It's usually either like fresh cut oak or it gets like bogged down really quickly. I'm not sure exactly why that happens. It must be something about either the malt mixing with the wood or the way that the wood isn't being sucked and pushed back like the long, hot summers and long, cold winters of the Americas. I'm not sure, but Wow, I really like that pour. I may have to get a bottle of that. This is a more challenging pour. It's almost meaty on the nose. All right, let's go ahead and taste the cask strength. Wow. Yeah, that has kick. Definite peatiness. Definite sweetness. Oh, it's got a meatiness too, and it lingers on the palate. It's got some nuts. Oh man, the finish is forever on this one. Black pepper, white pepper. I can't get over the meatiness. The only thing I've had that's this meaty was the Lagavulin. The Offerman edition Lagavulin was really meaty for me. I don't get that from a lot of scotches in my experience. I think that's something that's harder for me to pull out, but this one definitely has that meaty quality. But right up front, it's sweet and citrusy. It's got hints of like orange and lemon. Ooh, it's lemon zest in the mid-palate, and then you get that peat smoke. Oh, and then it comes in with this. Ooh, it's almost acrid. Almost. That might turn some people away. This is a more challenging pour for me than the 21, which isn't surprising. If you're doing a cask strength edition, that's usually for people who want more of a challenge. The 46 proof, that's easy drinking. This is making you work for it. Super classic, sweet fruit baking spice up front. Mid-palate suddenly hits you with this odd, meaty, woody. Well, I don't know where my camera cut off in the middle of that ridiculous metaphor I was going for, but it was the right decision by my camera to cut off because I was losing my fucking mind there for a minute. You know what? This is a really different pour. It's kind of cool to me to see how drastic the difference between these two BenRiach offerings is. The only similarity I can really point to is that hint of a citrus fruit on the front of the palate. And there's more baking spice on the nose in this one, but they both have sort of a similar clove vibe, for me at least. I mean, I gotta say, I don't think the cask strength is gonna bring a lot of bourbon drinkers over. It's very woody, but it's also distinctly peated. It's a really, really cool pour though, because it's complex, it's nuanced, and I don't really feel like it jerks me around a lot, even though I had this drastic difference in notes. It went from sweet and fruity into this peatiness, into this woodiness, with this pepper behind it. None of that felt out of balance. And to get something that's that high proof, and that strong, and that nuanced and different, all at the same time is incredibly, incredibly difficult. On the other hand, I think the 21, that could easily be my daily drinker. Holy crap, it's so smooth, it's so sweet. Love those fruity notes. It's everything I want from a scotch. It really is. God, I could drink that all day. That's so dangerous. That's so good. And you know, you don't lose all the peat with the 21. And I think that's actually a positive to me. A lot of bourbon drinkers are like, I can't do peat at all. And that's not really entirely true. There are Speyside whiskeys out there, this being one of them, I think, that will show you what a whisper of peat looks like. Just a little tiny bit, and will sort of be a very gentle introduction where it's not going to throw you off your whole palate. It's not going to feel intrusive. It will feel like a natural part of the journey, and maybe one stop on the journey. Whereas the cask strength, it feels like it's your pal, it's your backpack on the journey. So don't be afraid of peat. Don't run away from things that you've never tried before. You gotta, open your horizons, try some new experiences. Go to Vine and Table if you want to find either of these pours. I've heard they've got the best prices in the country. That's just what they told me. I'm just telling you what they've told me. If you want to call them a liar, you tell it to them, not to me. I believe them because they've been, good, upstanding members of the whiskey community, and so I applaud them for that. Thank you all for continuing to watch. Have a good day. Keep drinking like a professional. This glass is empty. I'm gonna cheers with this one. Cheers.